What's good, Warchant community? Ben Spicer welcoming you in here to a new segment on the Warchant TV YouTube channel, Noles in the NFL, where that's right, you guessed it. We'll be taking a look at former Florida State players in the professional ranks, FSU alum who've gone on to do big things in the NFL. There's about 15 to 20 former Florida State players currently in the league. That includes a couple members on the practice squad. So, what we're going to do here on this episode, I know we're 2 weeks into the season, but we're going to tell you about all those former Noles that are on NFL rosters and give you some insight into how some of them have done not only so far this season, but overall in their career too. And in order to temper my ADHD, we're going to go in alphabetical order. So, we'll start with Baltimore, where Ronald Darby was chosen 50th overall in the second round of the 2015 NFL Draft by Buffalo. He's now with the Ravens after having played for the Bills, Eagles, Commanders, and Broncos. He started in all but one of his 90 career games played, had just one tackle in the win over the Bengals in Baltimore's most recent game, but made some noise in the Ravens season opener against Houston. 7 tackles, one of those for a loss, also had a pass breakup. The Ravens are 2-0. Shifting to the NFC now, we look at the Carolina Panthers, who are 0-2 on the season, but they have the most former Florida State players. So we'll be talking a lot about Carolina. We'll start with Brian Burns. He didn't do as much in game 2 for the Panthers, but really caused havoc in the season opener, a 24-10 loss to Atlanta. Had 7 tackles, 1 for a loss, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble in that game. Just 2 tackles in the loss to the Saints most recently. Burns has spent his entire NFL career with Carolina after being drafted 16th overall in the 2019 draft. Had double-digit sacks for the first time in his career last season, posting 12 and a half. Panthers also have Jamie Robinson. Robinson in week 1 saw some special teams action, but didn't record a stat, according to Pro Football Reference. Robinson a rookie after being taken 145th overall in the 5th round by the Panthers. And then you have Jashawn Corbin, who is a member of Carolina's practice squad. The Chicago Bears acquired a former Seminole over the course of the offseason in DeMarcus Walker. And Walker's still trying to find his footing with the Bears. Had 2 tackles in the season opener, just 1 tackle in the loss against Tampa Bay most recently. 51st overall, Walker was drafted by the Denver Broncos in the 2nd round back in 2017. Played 4 seasons in Denver, has spent the past 3 years, though, with 3 different teams, having played for Houston in 2021, Tennessee last year, and now Chicago. Last year, Walker, in fact, had a breakout season, career highs in total tackles, sacks, and tackles for loss. Let's move now to the Cleveland Browns. The Browns picked up a 24-3 win over Cincinnati in the season opener, and former Florida State kicker Dustin Hopkins was a big reason for that. Hopkins went 3 for 3 on field goals, 1 for 1 on extra points in that game, with field goals of 42, 34, and 43 yards. Sloppy field conditions. Both teams battled rain throughout. Most recent game for the Browns, Hopkins went 2 for 3 on field goals and a loss to Pittsburgh, including a long of 55. Hopkins was taken in the 6th round in 2013. He has played with Washington and the Los Angeles Chargers before coming to Cleveland this season. Going now out to Cali, we'll go and look at the Los Angeles Chargers first. Derwin James, team high 11 tackles in a 27-24 loss to the Titans last week. In week 1, had 6 tackles, 1 of those for a loss, and 2 pass deflections in a defeat at the hands of Miami. So the Chargers 0-2 on the season. James has spent the duration of his career with the Los Angeles Chargers. He was selected 17th overall in the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft. James has started in 29 games combined the last 2 years after missing 2020 with an injury. He's also had 115 or more tackles each of the last 2 seasons. It's not the only player LA has that went to Florida State. Asante Samuel Jr. had 2 tackles in week 1, 6 tackles and a tackle for loss in that game against Tennessee. Samuel Jr. picked 47th overall in the 2nd round of the 2021 NFL Draft by the Chargers. He has 4 career interceptions, 22 career pass deflections, and 102 total tackles. entering the season. Sticking in LA, but going to a different team, the Rams, where former Florida State running back Cam Akers did not play in a loss to the 49ers. Akers played in 15 games for the Rams a year ago, totaled 786 rushing yards with 7 touchdowns. That was the most in his career and most since posting 625 as a rookie. Rams also have Keir Thomas on the practice squad, going over to Nevada now, crossing state lines. The Las Vegas Raiders. I remember that they weren't in Oakland anymore. I'm proud of myself for that. They have Janarius Robinson, former Florida State player, on the practice squad. Sticking in that same division, we go down to the Kansas City Chiefs, who have Derek Nottie. Nottie entering his 6th season with the Chiefs, where he was taken 75th overall in the 3rd round back in 2018. He has started in 70 of his 82 career games. So far this season, he has 3 tackles in each of the team's first 2 games. Staying in the AFC, we go to Miami, another team who picked up a Florida State guy over the offseason, and that was Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey currently on injured reserve. Looking back on his career, he was picked 5th overall in the 2016 NFL draft by Jacksonville. He's played for the Jaguars, Rams, and now the Dolphins after being traded to Miami. Ramsey has 19 career interceptions and has been a 6-time Pro Bowl cornerback and 3-time All-Pro. One former Florida State player bounced back in a big way for his team last Sunday. That's kicker Graham Gano. Gano was 0 for 2 on field goals at a 40-0 loss to Dallas, but 1 for 1 in field goals and a 21-point comeback for New York over Arizona. That field goal was from 34 yards out. He went 4 for 4 on extra points. That kick, the field goal, came with 23 seconds left, the eventual game winner for the Giants. He's entering his 14th NFL season. He played with Washington, Carolina, and now the Giants, where he spent the last 3 seasons. Has a career average of over 84%. Made the Pro Bowl back in 2017, going 29 for 30 in field goals on the year. We had 2 LA teams with former Florida State players. Now we have 2 New York teams that have former FSU guys. The Jets, another team who has 2 or more former Florida State players, and that is Dalvin Cook and Jermaine Johnson. The Jets, of course, acquired Cook prior to the start of the season. Hasn't gotten the chance to do a whole lot with New York just yet. Had 13 carries, 33 yards, and a win against Buffalo. Just 4 rushes for 7 yards in that 20-point loss to Dallas. Cook was taken 41st overall in the 2nd round in 2017. He is entering his first season with the Jets after spending the first 6 of his career with the Vikings. Jets also have Jermaine Johnson. Johnson having a good year so far. 5 tackles, 2 for a loss, and a sack in that Buffalo win. Had 4 tackles in a defeat against Dallas most recently. 26th overall by New York in 2022. In college, Johnson played a year for Florida State after transferring from Georgia. He had just 2.5 sacks all season last year in 14 games played, but already recorded 1 in week 1 for the Jets this year. Let's go down to the Big Easy now. The New Orleans Saints, who have a former Florida State player that we all know and love. Of course, talking about our guy, Jameis Winston. He hasn't played so far this season, of course. Derek Carr is New Orleans starting quarterback. Looking back on Winston, he was taken number 1 overall in the 2015 NFL Draft. 34 and 46 overall career record, 139 touchdowns, 96 interceptions entering 2023. Winston spent 5 seasons with Tampa Bay, where he was drafted before coming to New Orleans in 2020, where he's played the last 3 seasons. Philadelphia, last year's NFL runner-up. They have a couple former FSU players too. We'll start with Josh Sweat. Sweat with a sack and a forced fumble in Philadelphia's 34-28 victory over Minnesota. Going back to week 1, he had a quarterback hit and a half sack to go along with 2 tackles for loss. Sweat taken 130th overall in the 4th round of the 2018 NFL Draft. He's played for Philadelphia his entire career and started in 29 games the last 2 seasons after only starting in 3 his first 3 combined seasons. Sweat's coming off a season with the Eagles in which he tallied a career high in sacks, tackles for loss, and quarterback hits. He also had a pick six in a game against Dallas in 2022. Eagles also have offensive lineman Roderick Johnson, who was on the injured reserve. He hasn't appeared in a game since 2020. After being drafted by the Cleveland Browns in 2017, Johnson was waived a year later without ever playing a game for the Browns. He was then claimed on waivers by Houston, where he spent 3 seasons. Johnson made 6 starts in the 3 years he was with the Texans and hasn't played in an NFL game since 2020, as we said. The Seattle Seahawks, who unfortunately defeated my Detroit Lions last week, thanks to efforts like that of Mario Edwards Jr., who had 2 tackles in that 37-31 win in overtime. No stats recorded in week 1, the loss to Los Angeles. Edwards taken in the second round with the 35th overall choice of the 2015 NFL Draft. In his first year with Seattle, in his 9-year NFL career, Edwards has played for 6 teams. Oakland/Las Vegas. See, I knew I was going to do that. New York Giants, New Orleans, Chicago, Tennessee, and now Seattle. We'll close out episode 1 of Noles in the NFL with some practice squad signing news. Congratulations to running back Jock Patrick, who was signed to Tennessee last week to be on the practice squad. That's all we've got for Noles in the NFL. On your way out, hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Let us know. First off, if I missed anyone, I did some research, but you never know. Maybe some guys slipped through the cracks on me. So help me out if I missed anyone. I think that's everyone that we wanted to shout out and mention, give you some background on former Florida State players, now Noles in the NFL. See you back next week for our Week 3 summary right here on Warchant TV.